You think you know me.
Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're getting ready to do my very first oil change on my Indian Super Chief Limited. Let me show you what you need to do the trick. You got 6mm Allen wrench to take the 2 bolts out of the pan. You have your oil change kit from Indian. You can use whatever oil you feel like you want to use. I'm using the Indian because I got a deal on it for the first time. Of course, drain pan, funnel, and your wrench of choice to pull the filter off. All right folks, the first part of doing an oil change, you're going to want to let the bike run for a couple minutes just to get warmed up. I don't think I'm going to run it for 2 minutes because it's an air-cooled engine. You just want to get it going a little bit and warm it up before you drain the oil out. All right folks, I let it run for a couple minutes. Inside the Indian oil change kit comes your filter that you're going to need, your 2 O-rings. Here's the part number if you decide to use a different oil change kit. Honestly, I think you could buy these probably off of Amazon cheaper if you buy a kit that'll fit these. And you have 6 quarts of oil. It has oil change instructions in there too, but you're going to use 5.5 quarts of oil. Now that I've let it run, they recommend you take the dipstick out, set that off to the side, make sure everything's clean around the outside. Put your oil pan underneath because there's 2 drain bolts underneath there. Go ahead and pull your dipstick out, turn it counterclockwise. That's how it comes out. You should have a rag here while you're doing this so it doesn't drip all over. It's nice that this isn't on the exhaust side like on the Indian Scout, but oil looks good. I know this is my break-in oil still, so I have to get it changed today. We'll set this off to the side on a semi-clean rag. And if I didn't mention it before folks, you're going to want to do this on a fairly level surface. I like to do 2x4 underneath the kickstand. I've done that in every oil change I've ever done. You have 2 drain plugs underneath here. They're right next to each other. Not sure why Indian did that. I know the Scout had one in the front of the pan, one in the back of the pan that I would do the oil changes on. Not sure it's really necessary to do both of these right now. Well, since it's the first oil change, I'll go ahead and do that. It's, like I said, a 6mm Allen wrench to take both of those out, and make sure your crush washer comes off. Make sure the area is clean so you don't get any debris inside your engine. So basically, folks, get your pan ready. You can get these loosened up so they're just finger tight before you put the pan underneath there. This one's a little tight. This is the first oil change being done on this bike, so there, just snap them loose. You can get them started, and then before the oil starts draining out, go ahead and move your pan underneath. You should be able to do this the rest of the way by hand. All right folks, while the oil is still draining, it does take a while for it to come out. We're going to take the wrench. While that's still draining in the back, I put another pan underneath to catch the oil. Get this loose. You only have to loosen this up a little bit with the tool. It shouldn't be that tight on there anyway. It should be loose enough to where a couple turns with the wrench, you should be able to take it off by hand. And make sure when you take this off, like I said, make sure the area is clean. There's no debris that can get in there. Make sure the O-ring comes off with the filter. You don't want to have the other old ring on there when you put the new filter on, because it will make a mess. I've had that happen on an old truck before. Not much oil's coming out of here right now. Pretty much think we got it drained pretty good on the other end, but check to make sure your O-ring is still on there. All right folks, I still got oil draining out of the pan back there. It's taking a really long time to do. What you want to do, like I said, once the O-rings, you made sure the O-ring is off the old one, you're going to want to lubricate the new filter O-ring. People say to use new oil. You know what? I've done this shit for 30 years, my own oil changes. That little bit of oil is not going to hurt anything. You can argue with me all day long. You can tell me whatever kind of mechanic you are and what shop you worked in. This really doesn't make a difference what you use for oil on the seal. But get it on there. Don't cross thread it or you'll never change the oil filter again. Just get this pretty much hand tight. You don't need to tighten your filters down that much. It's the oil in the ring that's actually sealing this up. You don't want to over torque this or you're going to have a bad time the next time you go to do an oil change. So I got it pretty well hand tight, and 1, couple little ooga doogas with the wrench. All right, folks, I got the new copper crush washers on. You don't really want to reuse your old ones. I know sometimes you can get away with it, but if you look closely, you can see they're literally crushed. They're called crush washers because when you tighten everything down, it forms a nice seal. I've gotten away a couple times doing that. Don't recommend doing it too often. It's a cheap thing to do, but let's get this reinstalled, tighten it down to specs, which, you know, I just hand tighten everything, and clean up the area, make sure you don't have any oil. You start off with 5 quarts in there, let the bike run for a little bit, and then throw another half a quart. It should be 5.5 quarts of oil. Again, this is the semi-synthetic Indian oil for the first oil change. I'm probably going to go to a full synthetic maybe on the next one, but since I got a deal on this and it's the first oil change, we'll go with this. But do your 5 quarts of oil in there and let it run for a minute. Folks, I put the 5 quarts of oil in there. You're not going to want to go to that extra half until after you've done this step, because the oil is right up there to the top at the fill line. So you're going to want to start the bike up and let it run for at least 30 seconds to mix the oil into the engine. Okay, folks, after running it for, like I said, at least 30 seconds, that's what they recommend. I had no oil leaks. And again, you want to check this on as level a surface as possible to get an accurate reading on the dipstick. I can see now that the oil actually went down in, and I'm checking the dipstick. Clean it off. You're going to want to stick it in there again to check the level. And of course, to check the level the appropriate way, you have to turn this all the way back down in there to check your oil level. Remember, it's easier to put a little bit more in there than it is to actually take some out. You'd have to siphon it out if you put too much in there. And too much oil is going to be not great for your engine, and plus your air filter will have a little bit of oil in it because that's where it ends up. All right, this is definitely right at the add line. So that's when they tell you to add another half a quart, because this is supposed to be 5.5 quarts. Something I wish motorcycle and automobile dealers wouldn't do was half quarts of oil, because my truck takes 5.5. My Scout 60 always took 3.5. Always leaves you with a half a quart for the next time, but again, it's still kind of a pain in the butt to have the half a quart laying around. Again, just even do less than half a quart, put some in there, and then after riding it a little bit, maybe you can go back and check it again. I always recommend not going right up to the recommended amount, just because, again, it's easier to put a little bit more in there later on than it is to take it out. I'll give it one more shot. Get close as I can to the 5.5 quarts. You also don't want to run it too low, but again, that should be good. I'm just above half a quart on there. You can see that on the side of the bottle. All right, clean everything up, and I'm going to let it run one more time and check it.